Got it on today. Hey, it's working. Last week I got up and I'd forgotten to put my headset on there, so I put it on at the beginning. Well, it's great to see you here today. It's a really special service, a baptism service, or baptismal service, to be grammatically correct. I'll tell you more about what that means when we get into the pool a bit later on. But if you're visiting, my name's Simon, and I'm the lead minister here today, and it's really great to have you with us. Now, if you don't know me, you won't realise that I've got a bit of a reputation for getting lost a lot. You know, I could get lost where I live. Some years ago, I was at a conference in London and got the train into London. It was kind of right in the city of London. And I saw a friend of mine called Steve Brady was on the train. And we were chatting. And Steve, he'd moved to Bournemouth, but he used to be a minister in London. And I thought, this guy would know the streets of London. And we were chatting away. And then after we'd been chatting for about 20 minutes, Steve said to me, "Simon, where are we?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I thought you lived in London. You should know where we are." Now, this was like prehistoric. We didn't have Google Maps or anything else. So we looked at the program and realized the first speaker was really boring anyway. So we said, "Oh, there's a coffee shop there. Let's have a coffee." And then when we had the coffee, we asked for direction and found our way back when there was a better speaker. And we could say, you know, we were just catching up on news. Now, that was a funny kind of episode. But actually, being lost can be a bit scary, can't it? When I first moved to Nottingham for the first time, and this was a long, long time ago, I went to a church in the city centre. We lived in Chilwell, drove into the city centre, and I thought I was driving back to Chilwell, and I found myself in the Meadows. And I hadn't got a clue where I was. Anyone come from the Meadows before I say anything else? Oh, you do? Oh, right, yeah. But I must admit, I felt like a bit nervous. Remember that film Escape from New York? I felt I was in a scene from Escape from New York. And, you know, I just kept driving round and round and round. And suddenly, I saw a sign to the M1, and I thought, well, if I find my way to the M1, I should head in the right direction. And then I saw a sign to Beeston. I thought, well, Beeston's near Chilwell, and eventually I found my way back. And I think it took me, instead of quarter of an hour, 20 minutes, as it would have taken in those days, it took me about an hour and a half. And Hazel was writing a letter at the time. She said, "I don't know where Simon is. I think he's got lost." There's no way to get in touch, of course, in those days. We didn't have mobile phones. It was kind of prehistoric. Now, I'm sure that most of you are better at directions than me. But, you know, there are times in life when we feel like we've lost our way. You know, when we don't feel like we belong. When we don't seem to fit in. When we don't know what life's all about. And that's what's so great about this occasion, because it's a celebration of people. I haven't got my slide up on it. It's a celebration of people who are no longer lost. And if you wonder what I'm talking about, stick with me, because I want to explain this from that story, that famous story that Jesus told that Joan read to us a moment ago. So picture this. Jesus is speaking to crowds of people, and he's got some rivals. The religious leaders in those days, they were the pits. They used to look down on people. They used to set high standards. And along comes Jesus and says, God's going to break into your life and do some amazing things. And they didn't like this. And what's more, they didn't like some of the people hanging around Jesus, because they were what they regarded as lowlifes. We're told that many dishonest tax collectors and other notorious sinners often gathered around to listen to Jesus as he talked to people. See, they were really strict. They used to say to people, if you want to follow God, you don't associate with tax collectors. I mean, we've got a tax collector being baptized today. Tax collectors are... I used to work for what used to be HMRC, but in those days, they were ruled by the Romans, and if you were a tax collector, you were working for the enemy. And what's more, the Romans said you could cream off any money you wanted, and so people hated them. And the sinners, well, that was a broad term, you know, for people who were considered as the dregs of society, you know, publicans and prostitutes and what were regarded as low lives. Jesus was hanging around these. I mean, the kind of characters that people would avoid at all costs. But not Jesus. He welcomed them. He saw them. He loved them. He sat down with them. And he taught them. And how did they react? Well, indignant, they grumbled and complained, saying, "Look at how this man associates with all these notorious sinners and welcomes them to come to him." I can almost see the expression and the scowl on their face, but they huddled together. How could he sit with those kind of people? And Jesus flew right under their radar by telling them a story. And that's what Jesus often did. He didn't kind of confront people, but he'd sort of fly under the radar and he'd tell a clever story. And he said, there was once a shepherd with 100 lambs, but one of the lambs wandered away and was lost. I mean, shepherds were like 10 a penny, so they would have recognized what he was talking about. Now, most people would say, well, 99 lambs, just lose one. Yeah, but that's okay. That's collateral damage. Don't worry about it. But not this shepherd. So the shepherd left the 99 lambs out in the open field and searched in the wilderness for that one lamb. Now, think about that for a minute. He didn't say, well, that lamb was a right pain. It should have known better. Glad to be rid of it. He didn't sigh and call it a lost cause. He didn't blame the lamb for wandering off. Well, it always does that, doesn't it? He went after it through the wilderness. I don't know if you've ever been there. I've been there once in an air-conditioned minibus. They took us into the wilderness, and it looked all right from the windows. And when you get out, the heat just boom hits you. It's a very unwelcoming place. It's a rugged place. Well, he risked it. And he didn't stop until he finally found it. And what did he do when he found the lamb? Did he grab it by the scruff of the neck and say, gotcha, you little critter? No, Jesus said, with exuberant joy, he raised it up. Kind of pick the lamb up, place it on his shoulders, which is what shepherds would do, with lambs that were weak and lost, and carried it away with cheerful delight. Yeah, I found it. I mean, imagine in that heat, it must have been difficult just kind of getting a few words out. But this guy was so pleased he got the lamb, and everyone's standing there thinking, what a bonkers shepherd. Fancy going to all that risk. But can you imagine the relief of that little lamb in the story? Lost, scared, now safe on the shoulders of the shepherd. And when he got home, the shepherd didn't keep it to himself. He did the most bizarre thing. I mean, this is a lamb. All it is a lamb. And Jesus said, the shepherd said, come on, let's party. Let's celebrate. That little one was lost, but is now home. And then Jesus makes his point. See, he's getting under their radar. Remember, what they're saying is these religious leaders, these snobs, these super spiritual, pious people were saying, you're mixing with lowlifes. And he's saying, yeah, you call them lowlifes, but they're exactly who God sees as priceless. Lost, yes, but worth searching for. And that's why he sent me. And when they're found, you know what? Heaven throws a party. I mean, I can't imagine these guys have parties anyway. But, heaven throws a party. I remember being in a service once, and they were kind of people rather like those religious leaders. They're really miserable people. And at the end of the service, this guy faced like this, and he said, well, it's been really great to experience the joy of the Lord this morning. We've all said amen to that. I mean, I've seen happier faces on a turkey at Christmas Eve, Yeah, that's not what it's all about. Jesus said it's all about a party, because that's why I've come. And today, it's a big party. Now, maybe you're not sure about this faith thing. Maybe you're wondering if God really cares about you. Maybe you're searching. Or maybe you once believed, but you're drifting. Here's the good news. God values you, sees you, loves you. He sent his son to search for you. Jesus stepped into our messy world to seek out people like us so that we are no longer lost. So as I come into land, I want to ask you 3 questions. Do you feel looked down on? I mean, those people gathering around Jesus, they would have seen the scorn in the religious leaders' eyes. You ever felt looked down on because you've messed up? Your life's not in the same shape as them. When I used to live in the south, in Portsmouth, I was on a train, and it was one of those old-fashioned trains, with, used to have seats either side with carriages. And I took a cup of coffee into it, and I put it under my seat, and I kicked it over. And it was summer, and these ladies had like their sandals on, and they were kind of messing up their sandals. And I thought, what am I going to do? I can't just go and wipe it up. So I just sat there pretending that it hadn't happened, that it was someone else. It was a really interesting experience. I just sat there kind of looking ahead, thinking, I hope no one notices. And no one, it was Portsmouth, and people don't talk to each other in Portsmouth like they do here. People are very kind of quiet there. So no one dared say anything, but the expressions on their faces, I felt like crawling into the nearest hole. So I got off at Guildford. But you know, that's exactly how those people who were hanging around Jesus would have felt. The religious leaders written them off, looked down on them, thought they were lowlifes. But one person didn't, and that was Jesus. He didn't just tolerate them, he pulled up a chair. He shared meals with them, which was unheard of. He listened to their stories. And here's one thing. He doesn't look down on you either. You might say, well, you don't know how much I've messed up. I don't, but I'll tell you this. No matter what your story is, what your past is, or how other people see you, Jesus sees you, values you, and pulls up a seat and says, come and sit with me. Come and share your story. You belong. Another question. You ever felt invisible? I like to go swimming. I go to the swimming pool there, which is usually freezing and packed with people, but, you know, I was in the swimming pool, and it's the lane swimming. And there's a lady who's always on the other lane. She's quite a character, and I've often seen her around here and talked to her, so I knew her. And what she kind of walks up and down the pool all the time, never swims, and talks to people. And I thought she was talking to me, and she goes, "Hello, how are you?" Like, right the other side of the pool. I said, "Fine, thank you." And she was really nice. She looked at me and she went, "I am talking to the lifeguard." And, you know, I kind of felt like dissolving into the water there. You know, it's so cold, I probably did, you know. But you ever felt like that, you know, totally invisible, no one cares about you? Yeah, we've all felt like that at some point, overlooked, unseen. And that's not the way with you and God. You matter to him deeply. That's what this story is all about. You know, the shepherd who goes after the number one, the one sheep, who's that? That's God, who sent his son Jesus for people like you, for people like me. Yeah, I mean, it's bonkers. The story's bonkers. What kind of shepherd risks everything for a lost lamb? What kind of shepherd goes into the wilderness? This one did, because he represents God. And that's the point. That's how much God loves you, totally, personally, relentlessly. And maybe, just maybe, that's why you're here today. Because God hasn't stopped calling your name. One more question. Do you feel excluded? You know that feeling, like when you're completely out of place and you don't belong. You know, these people gathering around Jesus would have felt like that. Pushed aside, unseen, told by the religious leaders that God didn't want them. But God did. Now, I was sitting, I've got it all planned. I was going to spend Saturday afternoon finishing off getting ready for the service, but it kind of got shot. I got this phone call on my mobile. I didn't recognise the number. I thought, better get it. And I said, "Hello, Simon here." And they said, "Hello, Simon, it's Six Music here." Six Music is my favourite station. They play brilliant bands. If you don't know me, I've got better taste than most people here. Me and Colin and Richard, you know, we like bands like Squid. Everyone else, we're trying to educate them. But I thought, the lady sounded either like two people, like Rita or Debs. You know, I thought, hang on, Trevor's put them up to this, hasn't he? I said, come on. This is a wind-up, isn't it? No, it's Six Music. And I thought, you're going to ask me credit details next. Come on. They said, no, you sent a text in about Squid. I had to Hugh Stevens, and he wants you to be live on air. And I thought, what? And I was kind of like both terrified and like excited. Live on air on Six Music? There's only like millions of people listening and all my friends listen, and it's drive time. And I said, what for? They said, well, you know, he's going to have a bit of banter with you, then you do a quiz. And I said, I'll bomb. I said, it doesn't matter, just be on there. If you get three questions right, you get to choose a track, and if you get 4, you get a pin badge. I thought, I'm probably not going to do that. And she said, well, we need your tracks. So that took all afternoon. I did make up the time the next morning, I have to say. But it did take all afternoon, because I said, right. It's got to be on the theme of love. Right, okay, Joy Division, Love Will Tear Us Apart. No, played that last week. Okay. John Grant, Love Is Magic. No, that's on the playlist, and that was on yesterday. And in the end, she said, look, pick something not related to love. And I knew Hugh was a big Pavement fan. We're on first name terms now, you see, me and Hugh. I knew he was a big Pavement fan, so I said, Harness Your Hopes, Pavement. Yeah, that's it. Great. Looking forward to hearing that. And the rest of I was terrified. The rest of some people got panic phone calls from me. I apologise. I just kept phoning people. I phoned up Katie and Birchin. I was supposed to be at the baptism, but I said, I'm terrified. So anyway, 4:30 comes, and I was still thinking, is this a con? And actually, when it rang, it said suspected spam. And I thought, I get this. And he said, this is the producer here. I'm going to put you on to Hugh. And I thought, yeah. And it was. He came on. He had a personal word with me first. Hello, Simon. He's Irish, you see. He said, hello, Simon. Hugh here. Now, tell me where Hucknall is. Now, I won't bother with the accent. It doesn't work, does it? Sorry if you're Welsh. Apologies. And anyway, he said, you're on air in a minute. So, you know, and I know you and my friends had messaged in the gig buddies and saying, don't worry, all of us are listening, no pressure, you know, we're okay. So, and it was a music quiz, and it's one of those embarrassing things because people think I know a lot about music, but when I get tested, I bomb, you know. So, a quiz on air in front of all these millions of people, but there's a bit of banter at first, and he said, oh, Simon, no, I won't try the accent. You're a Baptist minister, I hear, and you go to gigs. Don't people think that's funny? And I said, well, no, but they do get fed up with me talking about Squid and bands like that. You don't really, do you? Oh, they do. Well, there we are. I said I've got one convert. That was Colin. He's coming to see Squid with me next week. And we got chatting. He said, and what you got lined up this week? Oh, quiet week. Welly tomorrow, Man, Woman, Chainsaw on Wednesday. Have you heard these bands? Heartworms on Friday. And, of course, Squid on Saturday. Right, in for the questions. First question. Which couple met in 1990, married 2 years later, and they put a photo of their first sonogram in the CD booklet for their album in 1992? I mean, 1992. I was a toddler then. Come on. And the annoying thing is, I almost got the right answer, and it was multiple choice, and I called out a different letter. So it was A, and I called out C. No, you're wrong. Okay, next question was from a Beatles track. I knew that, a line from a Beatles track. Got that right. Confidence up. Next two questions, totally bombed. The final shot. What is the first track on Bob Dylan's album, Blood on the Rooftops? I mean, Bob Dylan. I mean, what am I, 80, you know? Bob Dylan, I mean, that's old bloke's music. You know, I'm not an old bloke, you know. So, you know, I guessed it, and it was wrong. And then Hugh chuckled. He said, sorry, Simon, no pin badge, no track, but thanks for coming on the show. Goodbye. And then, you know, on to the next track. Hugh moved on, and that's it. I was out. All that excitement, it was gone. I was out, and I was no longer a celebrity. Celebrity for a few minutes, you know. But you ever felt like that? Excluded, shut out, left behind. Well, that's exactly how the people around Jesus felt. Those people that the religious leaders called lowlifes. The religious leaders pushed them out, but Jesus flips the scripts. In that story, when the shepherd finds the lamb, he doesn't just grab it by the scruff of the neck. He throws a party, a full-blown, joy-filled, everyone's invited celebration. And that's because God's like that, he said. He's not reluctantly letting you in the room. He's welcoming you with open arms. He's ready to throw a party for you because you belong. Not because you've earned it. Not because you're suddenly part of the in crowd. Not because you've got a Hugh Stevens program on Six Music. But because God loves you, because he loves you for what you are. Look at what Jesus said. That's the way heaven will celebrate. Even when one lost person turns to God and turns away from sin and returns to a new life, there will be a great celebration for that one lost sheep than for all the 99 who ever wandered off. You know, if you think that following Jesus is miserable and dull, think again. God knows how to throw a party. When one person turns back to God, there's a celebration like no other. And that's what this service is all about. We're going to hear their stories later. Katie and Birchin's lives have been changed. They've experienced hope and freedom and joy and love that come from Jesus, and we want to share that with you. And here's the incredible part. There could be a party in heaven with your name on it. Because Jesus stepped into our messy world with one aim, so that we could be no longer lost. That's what that story was all about. That's why you matter to him. I heard something interesting about a train that was going from Cardiff to Birmingham. Now, I would have thought, actually, driving a train, even I couldn't get lost. I mean, you just get on the train and you go on the tracks, and then the signal kind of puts you on the right track, and, you get from A to B. I could do that, I think. I might be better on a tram. That looks a bit easier, but I could manage that. Now, the train was already running late, and then there was an announcement. It was stopping several miles short of Birmingham, which is not a bad thing, really, if you've ever been to Birmingham. Sorry if you come from there. Because the driver had got lost, and they were waiting for a substitute. And the substitute driver had to come and take over. Can you imagine the conversation? He said, where's Birmingham? Is it down there? He said, oh, just down that track. I won't bother with the accent, will I? No. Where's Birmingham? Just down there, just down the track. I mean, I'd love to have been a fly on the windshield at that point. But Jesus is like that substitute driver who came in and helped get the train in the right direction. He steps into the mess of our confusion. He takes the controls. He leads us back to where we're meant to be, to the life that God wants us to have, to know forgiveness and joy and peace. So if you're feeling lost and you're unsure of your direction, know this. Jesus is already on the way. He knows your name. He sees where you are, and he's ready to throw a party with your name on it. So as I wrap up, I want you to check in on yourself to see where you are on the journey. Maybe today it's a big yes. Yeah, you've come here, you've been thinking, you have that tug in your heart, you're ready to trust in God, to say, yeah, I want to turn from my old way of life and turn to Jesus and know him. And that's amazing if that's you. We're here for you. We want to help you and talk to you and come and see us afterwards. Maybe, though, it's more of a little yes. You're curious. You're asking questions. You want to explore what this faith thing might be. Well, if that's you, we've got some booklets we really want you to have. Come and take one of those afterwards. Or maybe you're here with a healthy maybe. You're not sure yet if this really connects with your life. Well, that's okay. We get it. Why not come along to our Christianity and Comedy night? Why not come along next week? Because, we're busy making a church that people who don't go to church love to come to and can find out more about Jesus. Our purpose is to help people find and follow Jesus. Wherever you are, big yes, little yes, or healthy maybe, you're welcome here. No pressure, no expectations, just space to explore, ask, and discover it at your own pace. Because God doesn't force his way in. He meets you exactly where you are. And here's the best part. Every step forward matters to God, because you've always been worth the search.